Hi, everyone. I'm Morgan Kyauk, Managing Director at NightDragon, here for our latest NightVision RapidFire episode. And I'm here with Zach LaValley at RapidSOS, one of the most amazing companies out there innovating around AI and public safety. Zach, thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Morgan.
So I have a list of questions that I'll run through quite quickly here, but I think it's important for us and to comment on all the amazing work that RapidSOS is working on. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about RapidSOS, what you guys do, and the value that you bring your customers?
Sure. Uh, RapidSOS builds and maintains an AI platform that is the leading mission critical data and coordination platform for public safety and the security industry. And so we really based our ideas around bridging beyond the call. So a lot of emergencies get triggered by the call, and we live in a modern digital age where there is so much more rich information that can help create a richer picture of what's happening in that moment than just the phone call. And so we marry the phone call with all of this surrounding data and this coordination with the ecosystem around us to drive better outcomes and results across the safety industry.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think certainly one of the things we've seen out in the industry is the impact of AI on legacy markets that require a lot of manual tasks and that still base themselves on a lot of legacy infrastructure. RapidSOS is certainly innovating in that regard. I know a lot of the business was actually highlighted during some of the more recent events, especially the World Cup. Can you talk a little bit about how RapidSOS was supporting the World Cup operations in North America?
Yeah, World Cup is really great example of what we try to do. So you've got this enormous influx of a very international community. You've got lots of different agencies all kind of swarming on a particular event or a stadium. So not just the local police department, but probably lots of police departments, probably the State Department, fire, EMS, et cetera, et cetera. And you've got private organizations all trying to do business in and around that stadium all at the same time. And so what RapidSOS did was we deployed a bunch of technology into the various emergency call centers and within the stadiums to help bridge those communities together of first responders and telecommunicators there. So automatic language translation for an incoming call, marrying a bunch of data signals and video streams to create a more holistic view if and when an emergency were to arise, and then being a bridge and a coordinator between the various responder agencies so that they got the right information as quickly as they could to respond to anybody in need.
Yeah. And was there anything specific about the World Cup itself that drove a lot of complexity in your operation that you normally don't see in, a typical day in the U.S. across emergency response?
Yeah, I will say that we see complexity, but it tends to be in a pattern around the U.S. holidays. So we're very North American at this moment, but New Year's Eve and Fourth of July here in the States tend to be huge volume drivers of emergency response, fireworks and drinking and all these other things. And what we saw was each of these events at the World Cup were like mini Fourth of Julys, right? And they were located and localized around these stadiums. And so, luckily as a platform, we've been prepared because we know how to manage that level of volume and complexity at these two other points of the year. It just made them more frequent and more localized based on the World Cup events.
Got it. Got it. And, one of the things I always enjoy when speaking with you is all the innovation you're doing around AI. I would say across our portfolio, you're certainly on the leading edge. Can you talk a little bit about how you leverage AI in your solution and then how that helps you solve a lot of the problems you are for your customers?
Yeah, we really take an approach like treating AI. It's almost like, Morgan, I said, you told me, Zach, I want to build something with wood. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, good. Do you want to build a table, Morgan? Do you want to build a wall in your house? What you want to build matters about how you want to use the tool that we're presenting. So we really engage deeply with the communities that we serve, whether it be 911 or the private security industry or the responder industry, And they have specific problems. And so what we're trying to do is really learn about those problems and create the right AI human interface that enables the solving of those problems and can create sort of more coordination across these various industries. So we're really about trying to choose the right AIs to solve the right problems and then wrapping those in the right harnesses in order to sort of protect the sanctity of those industries. You know, public safety and first responders have been doing their job for decades. There's a lot of hard-won wisdom. We don't want to throw any of that wisdom away. What we want to do is marry that wisdom with the power and intelligence of AI. And so we have lots of different offerings in order to get people onboarded and using it. So you don't have to choose, you know, do you put it directly in front of your consumer base? You don't have to. You can if you're forward-looking. We're pretty confident in those tools. But if you want to get a tighter quality loop to understand if your organization is behaving, you know, ideally, we can use AI to do that. We can use AI to merely ingest and filter a bunch of data for you so that your humans don't get cognitively overloaded. So we really work to try to identify the right problem and then apply the right solution.
Yeah, that's great. And, you know, I'd love to hear more about what that means for an individual that might be reaching out to a 911 center. You know, how does that look like what does that look like in practice? And how does that impact that individual that needs emergency response from their local first responder?
Yeah, so a couple different variants. I'll walk through a few. The first is you're calling in and RapidSOS is looking at all of the other information sort of surrounding sort of your call. So we're going to move in your precise location, where you might move in your health records if you approve that on your phone. We might be looking at what else is happening inside of the area that you were calling from and determine whether or not it's relevant. So one interaction that is happening, but you're not maybe interacting with it directly, is just Harmony, our AI, is filtering and bringing all of that to the surface of the person you're talking to. So that person has a much richer picture of the situation you're in. Another use of AI might be maybe you're not calling about an emergency, maybe you're calling about a noise complaint. And so in that case, the call center, the telecommunicators at a 911 agency, they serve both needs. They serve the emergency need, but they also serve the administrative need. And so what we try to do is make sure that if the emergency need is great enough, we don't bother them with the administrative need. And so in that case, you might talk directly with an AI voice agent to take in the information that you have, to log that, and then to action the appropriate agency. You know, maybe it's animal control, maybe it's law enforcement, but again, it's a noise complaint, so it doesn't rise up to the top priority. So you might be interacting with an AI in that way. A third way, again, maybe not direct interaction, but the interaction you're having with the human, maybe the AI is listening, and it's going to give feedback to the human to improve that interaction for the next caller, right? So you know, maybe it's monitoring the stress levels of the call taker. Maybe it's understanding whether or not they're following the right protocols based on the situation, and then it's surfacing that so that the overall system can get better. So those are just three examples of how AI could be being used in your interaction that maybe you directly are aware of, but maybe you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think that's so critical, especially in scenarios where there is a real emergency and that response time is going to determine, it's effectively a matter of life or death. And so just amazing work you're doing around AI and applying it to that whole sector and that whole workflow. What were some lessons learned that you had during the World Cup, and then maybe just more broadly during some of those peak events that you think that you can take to, further concerts or sports or even the LA Olympics in 2028?
Yeah. One is just education. I think everybody's on some kind of learning curve, and just educating people about the tools that are available to them and then sort of bringing them on board. Still a lot of lessons learned from just the exercise of going and trying to educate these communities surrounding the stadiums of this is the tool, this is what it can do for you. And so I think we've gotten a lot better about trying to bring people along on that journey while removing kind of the fear of the ethos of AI. And so I think we're just like really kind of bringing people along of like, oh no, like this is possible, you can do it, you can harness this power. So that's one. I think another is how important it is to try to bring these communities together and to have them value more than just the people that they typically talk to. Um, you know, bridging that private public divide and saying, hey, it's really nice when the 911 community can directly interface with the private security at the stadium. Because again, as you brought up, Morgan, in a life or death situation, if I'm having a heart attack, I don't really care if EMS shows up and applies the AED to my chest. If there's a trained professional at the stadium that can do that, I want that help. And so being able to connect that group, I think we harnessed and we showcased the power of being able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. You certainly could hear and see the potential for AI applied to those use cases, and I think that's something we at NightDragon are certainly excited about. So, that leads me to my last question here. What's next for RapidSOS?
Yeah. Continuing to grow this sort of connected safety network that puts the power of making personal safety and security decisions into the power of you, and both your locality, but also you as the consumer, I think. So I think we're really trying to make it so that all of the things that surround us as individuals, we have the choice to say whether or not those things can aid us in our moments of need. And so you'll see us continue to connect the ecosystem around us and to put that power back into the hands of the consumer and the citizen, to ensure that they can make the choice of whether or not they want to fail safer or have that security in their hands.
Awesome. So super excited to hear more about what you guys are working on. I'm sure RapidSOS and yourselves are going to be communicating more exciting news here in the future. But with that, we'll wrap up this rapid fire session. Zach, thank you for joining us.
Morgan, always a pleasure. Great to talk to you again.